Decisions alone will never determine outcomes. Your beliefs fuel the decisions that determine your outcomes. And that's why a lot of second marriages fail. Because a man or a woman will come out of a first marriage and they will sincerely believe that the problem with the first marriage was the person that they first married. So they decide to marry a different person, forgetting entirely that the common denominator in both marriages is them. One thing I love the most in my job and can't stand the most in my job is marriage counseling. I love seeing a couple come back together. But it's so hard getting an individual to focus on themselves. Because the husband comes in and he wants to blame it on the wife, and the wife comes in and she wants to blame it on the husband. And so I try and separate the two of them and I say, what could you do better? What? Well, I thought we were here to talk about our marriage. Yes, we are. It all goes back to this. We tend to think that we can maintain faulty belief systems, but change our decisions and wind up with different outcomes. That's why some of you are in relationship loops, I call them. You're saying, every one of my relationships end up the same. The reason every one of your relationships ends up the same is because the invisible part of your operating system, your belief system, is faulty. And as long as your beliefs are faulty, your decisions will be faulty, and your outcomes will be lousy. Because your operating system, what you assume about life, what you assume about God, what you assume about money, what you assume about sex, what you assume about relationships, what we assume is true drives our decisions and affects our outcomes. And until you deal with your beliefs, your decisions will continue to take you places you don't want to go. And this is why running away, making a decision to abandon a family or a job, just deciding to change the scenery doesn't result in better outcomes. You see, if the first belief system that drove you into the first environment is the same belief system that drives you into the second environment, chances are your outcomes are going to be exactly the same. And this sounds like common sense, right? But it's happening everywhere, including in the church. Do not believe that it isn't. Satan would love to make you think that it isn't, because if you think that it isn't, then you don't address this. So listen close. You want a breakaway life? If you, in other words, want your life to look and feel different, and you want to break away from the herd that seems to be going in a different direction, it's not just a matter of changing your major in your marriage and your career. It goes back to something far more fundamental. It goes back to asking yourself, where am I believing wrong? Where am I believing wrong? Where have my assumptions been off base? See, a breakaway life is not just a result of breakaway decisions. It's a result of breakaway thinking. And this is why in the Word of God, Jesus is so brilliant. And Jesus said it in a sentence. Paul takes 4 sentences to do it. I take half an hour. But Jesus said, you want to be free? Sure. You want to be relationally free? Okay. You want to be free financially? Yeah, that sounds good. You want to be free as a parent? You want freedom in life? Yeah. Then you need to know the truth. And the truth will set you free. You need to know me. I am the truth. And the truth will set you free. One sentence. Very simple, very Jesus, very powerful. The truth, the belief in Jesus will set you free. Romans 12, verse 2. Here's how Paul said it. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world. Paul is saying, don't be a conformist. Don't follow the sheep. Don't be a sanist. That's a word I just made up, I think. Because it's in the notes, and I don't like the way it sounds, so let's ignore it. If you grew up in a religious home and your religious parents said, Christians all conform, Paul's saying, no, Jesus didn't conform. In fact, that's what got Jesus in trouble. Paul is telling us as Christians, we don't need to conform to the form of line. We don't need to be part of the herd of this world. Do not be conformed. Do not allow yourself to be pressed into this form of culture, this society, this great Canadian value system. There's no problem being patriotic, but don't do that at the expense of your loyalty to your belief system and the truth. And that is great. When Paul says don't conform any longer to the pattern of this world, that's great news for me, because I don't want my family to look like some of those families that I bump into in certain environments, right? I don't want my finances to reflect a lot of people who I talk to's financial situations in which they're up to debt, up to their ears, living the great life. But if they miss one paycheck, it's Red Rover, my lifestyle is over. I don't want my schedule to follow the patterns of this world, because I want time to enjoy the blessings in life that God has said here. This is for you. Sorry, God, I'm a bit too busy. I don't want that. There are a lot of cultural things I love. Positive. But there are a lot of cultural patterns I don't want my life to follow. I don't want your life to follow. And Paul says, okay, as a Christian, don't allow yourself to be pressed into this mode. That's good news. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed. And the word for transformed, this little Greek word is pronounced metamorpho. And it's where we get our word metamorphosis from. Okay? Or transformation. I want you to be transformed, says Paul. By the end of the day, I want the outcomes of your life to be different than the outcomes of everybody else you bump into. It's okay to want some of the same things. I mean, you're going to dress alike, drive alike, eat alike. That's part of culture. But in terms of ultimate outcomes, the way you feel about life, the way your marriage works, the way your family works, the way you approach work, the way you give, the way you give back, the way you receive. Do you know how many people give so that they look good? Let's make sure that this building is named after me. I'm a big believer in anonymous giving. Huge believer in anonymous giving. You know why? Because God knows if I gave. Okay? I will never ask Cherry to show me who gave what. Because God knows. That's His responsibility. And yours. As a result of the belief system that you have with Him. Paul says, I don't want you to be pressed into the pattern of this world. Be transformed, and here comes the secret. This is... Man, I want to sing it. I want to write a song about this right now and sing it, but I'm not going to. That's the worship team's responsibility. So Shalom, write a song about this and get it ready to sing at the end of my sermon. Just kidding. I want you to be transformed, and here's the secret, by the renewing of your mind. 2,000 years ago, Paul says, look, transformed lives, transformed outcomes are not the result of different decisions that you make. They are the overflow of a renewed mind of believing and thinking differently. And that word, renewed, can also be translated into our English word, renovate. Renovate. Paul says we need to renovate our mind. high. How many of you have ever participated or lived through a renovation in your house? Bathroom, bedroom, addition, anything. Way up, put them up there. Okay, at least half of us, if not more. Now tell me something about a renovation. A renovation is always messy. Right? I mean, even at the day, there's no sort of thing as a non-messy renovation. Even when the workers leave, there's dust, there's drywall.